And blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Jesse in Boise. He's been very patient. Jesse, good morning.
Actually, it's not a good morning, and you know why?
Why?
Well, have you heard of H.R. 1585, Violence Against Women Reauthorization Act of 2019?
I think I'm about ready to hear it.
Yeah, I just heard about it this morning as well, and it's something that usually passes because it's a good bill, usually, which is just to prevent violence, protect women. And this time around, the Democrats are sneaking in red flag legislation federally. So even a former girlfriend from however long ago could say that you're a danger and have secret court proceedings take away your gun.
Well, and we're talking about legislation in the House of Representatives?
Yes, and I heard this morning that it already passed the House and it's going to the Senate.
Well, I don't really think that it'll pass the Senate.
Yeah, well, apparently it's passed for 25 years, and hopefully the Senate actually hears about the bill. It has the gun flag legislation in it. That way they don't think, oh, you have to say, yes, it's a violence against women sort of thing.
Yeah, I believe Congressman Simpson voted for that, and Congressman Fulcher voted against that.
Well, I'll definitely not be voting for Simpson. I know that much. And anybody who says yes in Idaho, I'm not voting for them.
Right. Again, we always want to make sure that we broadcast threats to gun ownership and to the Republic. However, I don't think it'll pass, and I'm sure the president wouldn't sign it.
All right, that'll be great then. Hopefully it's not as big of a deal, but we need to just make sure we're on guard for these sort of things. They'll try to sneak them in wherever they can.
I would agree with you.
So what do you think about the president and Pompeo essentially wanting Venezuela to potentially have military force, another petrodollar war, where we send our children over to fight?
Well, we got to keep our continent safe, don't we, or not?
Oh, it's Venezuela. What are they going to do to us? I think if we want to keep our country safe, that we should start by securing the border. And it's not going to keep us safe by going and possibly blowing up children in Venezuela, because just like in the Middle East, they told us that there's some sort of conflict, we have to protect the people, or there's weapons of mass destruction, and then we end up causing more problems than before, you know?
Well, you know what? Let's throw that out and see if people bite on that one, Jesse.
All right, yeah, I mainly care about the gun control legislation, but that was another issue that I had on my mind.
Well, Venezuela appears to be heating up.
All right, have a good day, Kevin Miller.
Thank you, Jesse. God bless, brother.
God bless.
There we have it. A nice young man worried about guns. Worried about guns. Joining us now, Congressman Russ Fulcher, who, according to Dave Petza, was like gardening or something on Saturday and then came in for the show. Good morning, sir.
Kevin, good morning. I wish I was gardening right now.
You know, I understand, you've been back to the home country, and I've been following you on the social media. You've been traveling a lot. And I don't have to say this to you, sir, there's nothing more beautiful than a weekend or a couple weeks here in Idaho.
Especially this time of year. We have been traveling around the various counties, starting all the way up north by the Canadian border of Boundary County, and then working our way down towards the Treasure Valley. And this time of year, with the rivers flowing and everything green, it's absolutely fabulous, Kevin. It makes you appreciate what we have here.
Now, how are those north people, and are you worried about any incursions on the border up there?
ironically, we do have some issues with that. That's one of the reasons that I was up there. It's not the same by any means as on the southern border, but there is some nefarious activity that is transpiring on the northern border, and so we're trying to take a closer look at that as well.
That is disturbing to hear. I'm glad you're on the case, Congressman Fulcher, joining us. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. So when we take a look at your congressional district, very big, probably one of the largest, if not the largest geographically compared to other districts in the country. Is there a difference between people here in the Treasure Valley, where you're going to have a lot of transplants, a lot of people coming in, and perhaps people that live up north that, don't get, I don't want to say don't get out, but aren't as transplanty or transient as we are down here? Is there a difference in culture at all?
There is, Kevin, and frankly, Idaho is kind of one of those places, I think, that is a bit of a respite for the rest of the country. We have a lot of people who want to come here. They want to be here because it's maybe what America was a few years ago in a lot of areas, and especially in those rural parts of the state. Of all of the people we have in our whole state, we've got between a third and a half of them within a 30-minute drive radius in the Treasure Valley. You get out of the Treasure Valley, and it's a much more rural, different world. And quite honestly, I think that a lot of people just don't they don't follow the news quite as closely, and they don't get as uptight about it as perhaps we do in the more urban areas.
Congressman Fulcher, one of your many careers, commercial real estate, you're still involved, obviously, with what's going on here in the Treasure Valley. We've got a lot of growth going on. You've got the Fulcher Army here. Again, is there anything that the federal government will do? I know recently the president met with the Democrats talking about infrastructure. Could we see any type of federal-type infrastructure that would aid us, not only here in the Treasure Valley, but, throughout the state that, because of its growth, desperately needs more infrastructure?
Well, I think the answer to that is going to be yes. Now, exactly what that's going to look like, I can't really tell you that, or exactly how soon it's going to be. But Kevin, consider this, and I want to just put a perspective on that maybe some people don't see. In the state of Idaho, we have nearly 2/3 of our land mass that's controlled by the federal government. And that means that we can't do any kind of a property tax. We can't, in many cases, use that resource as we would as if it were managed privately or by locals in the state of Idaho. That means that the federal government is acting as a landlord. And landlords have responsibilities. And so, as you know, politically, I'm a conservative person. And I think it's a conservative position to acknowledge the fact that when the landlord is in charge, they've got responsibilities. Or when they take certain assets off the table, like so much of our resources, they've got responsibilities. If you rent a house, the pipe breaks, the roof has got a hole in it, landlord needs to take care of that. Well, that's the infrastructure that you're talking about. And so there's some responsibilities the federal government has, and that's to take care of part of that infrastructure. And now there's an option. They can release to the tenant some of the access to the resources we've got, and then they could reduce some of their responsibility in terms of infrastructure. But until that happens, they're on the hook as far as I'm concerned.
Congressman Russ Fulcher joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. A couple of legislative bills that we want to talk about. We had Congressman Simpson in, who has told us he really loves working with you. The delegation, the congressional delegation, seems more unified than ever. There was a split, though, recently, and Congressman Simpson explained this on, and the reason why I'm mentioning, we had Jesse calling a moment ago concerning the recent bill that many people believe was a backdoor to red flag laws. You voted against it. He voted for it, concerning a Violence Against Women Act.
Yes, and we talked about that ahead of time. And this was a bill that that was initiated back in 1994, and it really was just that. It was appropriately named at that point, and the primary purpose was to provide legal assistance and certain support when there was domestic violence cases and there was no resources on the for the victim. But in this particular case, the Democrat majority put some insertions in that I just didn't feel comfortable with. One was the potential of losing your right to own a firearm with simply having a misdemeanor. There was a provision in there where inmate in a prison could choose if they wanted to be in a male facility or a female facility based on how they identify. Those types of things just put that out of the comfort zone for me. I just couldn't support that. It was clearly politicized. It wasn't the same bill that was initially put forth and reauthorized every year. It had different language in it, and I think that that's the reason why, is that the sponsors wanted to make it look like they wanted to get people on record to see if they could get votes under those circumstances. I just couldn't go there.
Congressman Fulcher joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So, the last time we had you in, you were talking about hanging out with the Democrats and doing that to build a coalition, to build some consensus. Your thoughts on what Congressman Simpson said concerning the delegation working together, doing their very best to represent the folks here in Idaho. What's that like?
It has been good, and frankly, Congressman Simpson's been very helpful, and so's Senator Risch, Senator Crapo. As the new member here, I've probably benefited by the fact that we've got some veterans that have logged a lot of years in this state that's already there. They know the personnel, they know the process, they've been helpful in the transition for me, and I value that. That said, we do think differently from time to time, and we know that and respect it. The overall objective is to just do the best thing for the state of Idaho, and I think for the most part we're doing that. But there'll also be some times where we have to think independently, and there'll be some separation on some issues. But overall, Kevin, I'd say that it's probably as good as it has been for a long time, just in terms of Idaho's delegation. You can measure that by just how we communicate. We communicate a lot, and I'm not sure that's always been the case.
Congressman Fulcher, we'll get you out here on this one on KIDO Talk Radio. Can you give us the details on something that's percolating called the Climate Action Now Act?
Yeah, well, I think we debated part of that yesterday. In fact, I think I was on the C-SPAN channel on that. And once again, there's a move underfoot to try to force the U.S. back into the Paris Climate Accord. And the way that it's set up is not to our advantage. When I say our advantage, America's advantage. The rest of the world wants the U.S. to foot the bill with a lot of money towards emission reduction and subject ourselves to a lot of constraints on emission production. But the largest offenders, Kevin, on the planet are countries like China and India. And they're not participating in this. And if they do, they're not going to hold themselves to it. And so, ironically, what would happen if we jump back into that, I believe, is we would address these big constraints. We would force American industry to produce in countries like China and India. They're the worst offenders overall. And so the situation would simply get worse and America would get poorer. So that's not the answer. And that was a reflection of my debate yesterday. And that's going to be a reflection of my vote as soon as that bill comes up.
Congressman Fulcher, we appreciate you. Not as many miles on the Fulcher truck as before, but you're still logging them. So we appreciate you taking care of the 1st Congressional District for us.
And I appreciate you communicating the way you do, Kevin, and giving me an opportunity to maybe just share a snippet or two of what's happened back here. And so thank you for what you do.
Well, you have a great day, sir.
You as well, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you. Our great friend, Congressman Russ Fulcher. Hey, coming up next, the Trump administration opposes bills on medical marijuana for military veterans. And one state, this does sound familiar, will make it a felony, will make it a charge of murder if a woman has an abortion. We'll tell you about that more next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you, Sean Hannity. We appreciate holding the mantle of conservatism with you locally in the Treasure Valley. Out to our great friend David Ray. Dave Ray joining us from Fair, the pride of the Buckeye State. Good morning, David Ray.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. I thought you were the pride of the Buckeye State.
Well, you and LeBron.
Well, here I find myself in El Paso, having conducted a border tour yesterday, and my heart sank, my friend. I hate to tell you, it's things are even worse than I expected. So I have a cheery tone in my voice, but not a lot of good news to deliver.
Well, and by the way, we appreciate you joining us. I know we've got you for a brief segment here, so I'm going to give you the usual Kevin Miller softball. David, how bad is it?
Well, we have been hearing about the rush of people claiming political asylum and how long this has been going on. And, the fact is that now we're hearing from Washington that the detention facilities are so overflooded and the Border Patrol is so overrun that folks who are coming in, and they're still coming in very large groups, aren't even bothering to ask for political asylum anymore. They know that they're going to be caught and released. We saw the wall here in El Paso, and it's working just fine, but you get out more into the hinterland, 70 or 80 miles east of El Paso, and what you have is very open country. You had a group of over 400 people apprehended yesterday coming in. And what is happening is that the Border Patrol is out of detention space. They have nowhere to hold these folks. They're being ticketed for illegal entry and then released, taken to downtown El Paso and put on Greyhound buses, destinations everywhere in the United States, next door to you, next door to me. These are folks that we know nothing about. They've never had background checks. They've never had health screenings. We don't know if they're MS-13. We don't know if they're convicted felons. We don't know anything about them except the fact that they're coming into our country and they have a court date for which they'll never show up. So it's pretty disheartening. The president is trying to do what he can, but until Congress actually gets off its hands and makes some changes to our asylum laws, that's what's really driven us to the point of being, overwhelmed. To give you an idea, in the early 2000s, the asylum caseload, 2009 actually, the asylum caseload was about 5,000 cases. Right now, we have 900,000 asylum cases in the backlog. These are 91% of these are going to be denied, but these folks have been released into the United States because of the mandatory catch and release program that Congress still hasn't ended, and other loopholes in the asylum laws that are causing this crisis to go on and on and on.
David, we'll get you out on this one. We've only got about a minute left. What's the reaction of the locals there in El Paso?
There's a mixed sentiment here. A lot of people in El Paso are first and second generation Mexican-American. There's some folks feel some compassion for them, but there's also a lot of frustration. I know there's a lot of frustration from Mexicans in Mexico towards the caravanners because the Mexicans feel like they're being used, that, monies and social programs that should be going to poor Mexicans are instead being diverted to these caravanners. So they're parroting a lot of the things that you hear from Americans about our frustration. El Paso is doing the best that it can as a border town. It certainly doesn't have the capacity to accommodate many of these folks, which is why they're being sent on to the interior of the country. But this is not a story that's going away anytime soon, Kevin. And my friend, I am sure we will be talking about it again.
Stay safe, David. We appreciate you, and we want you around for football season.
Hey, you know that. Listen, buddy, you have a great day. Good chatting with you again.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
All right.
There we have it. David Ray joining us exclusively from the border. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get you to work very early, safely and on time. Good morning, Dave. And I'm Kevin Miller. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Maggie. And blessed to be a part of your day. Waking up on the right side, Kevin Miller in the morning. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And a couple issues we are talking about. As you heard from Maggie O'Mara, the test came back showing police in Idaho seized hemp, not marijuana. Idaho State Police seized 7,000 pounds of hemp that was being transported across the state. By the way, that's illegal. That's illegal in the state of Idaho. Now, what the mainstream media is trying to do, what the local media is trying to do, they won't have enough guts to do it because they're devious. They're like the devious little libs hiding in the closet, if you will. Is this a news story? Yes. 7,000 pounds of hemp is still illegal. Thank you, Idaho State Police, for enforcing state law, which is your mandate, which is your duty, which is doing your job. And it sends a message to all the prolificers of, I don't even know if that's a word, but we'll just roll with it, prolificers of hemp and other drugs, nefarious drugs. Now, again, we've had the debate on hemp. We agree to disagree. And that's what it's about. It's about discussion. And we'd love to hear from you. But the idea that the state police or any police did anything wrong is absurd. And by the way, we will continue to back law enforcement. We will continue to back the drug-free Idaho folks. We will continue to have a safe place for people that do not want marijuana here. By the way, a friend of ours on the Kevin Miller Show Facebook site said, I really wish the people that are smoking pot in the house next door would do it somewhere else because it stinks up my house. And you ever find people that are promoting the marijuana? Well, they're very selfish because all they care about is what's good for them. All they seem to care about is what's good for them and getting across that weed is harmless or pot is harmless or marijuana is harmless. Just from the environmental concerns, nobody wants to be around anybody that stinks. Remember, smokers, they used to stink. But anyway, thank you, law enforcement, for doing your job. By the way, in other news, and some of the marijuana people are a little upset about this, I put it on my Facebook. Looks like the end of the ride for legalized dope in Oregon. The state Senate recently voted 18-10 to freeze marijuana productions at current levels. Why? There's too much legal dope. So there's an oversupply. In fact, they have so much of a legal surplus in Oregon. I don't know if they're ever going to do a 2-for-1 sale, but they've got enough to last it for 6.5 years. 6.5 years. So now the government is coming in to regulate and try and make profitable what is illegal federally. That's one thing. But back to this hemp thing. Like I said, we don't have the equipment to handle this on a case-by-case level. And the law enforcement lobby that I thought was going to be overwhelmed by the ag lobby, and thanks to Governor Little, we weren't overwhelmed. But if it takes this long to determine hemp from marijuana, what's it going to be if you pull somebody over and they go, oh, no, it's hemp? The dogs can't tell the difference. We don't have any roadside tests, so you're going to detain people and charge them pending the hemp test? It just doesn't work. It's not feasible. But like I said, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, law enforcement did their job, and they should be commended for that. Instead of people saying, well, see, it's harmless. No, hemp is illegal in the state of Idaho. Idaho State Police, they enforce the laws. So thank you. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up, one state will turn abortion into a felony. Now, remember, we had that issue here in the state of Idaho, and that didn't go anywhere. One state, it passed unanimously in its House. But before that, I go back to this. In Idaho, hemp remains illegal regardless of its THC concentration, and possession carries the same legal penalties as marijuana. Now we'll see what happens next with this driver. We'll see whether or not he's going to do time pending his hearing. And like I said, it is the beginning of the marijuana wars. Let us be the first to declare this is where it starts. And you've got people, whether it's our friends from the Boise Hemp Fest or everywhere else, saying, it's harmless. It's going to be okay with their little initiative. We'll keep you updated on that. You're always free to comment on that. Number 2, to the people that went out and collected the 5,000 or so signatures on the stadium and on the library, thank you. Thank you for being involved in your community. Thank you for caring, and thank you for making a difference. Other people can say, well, Kevin Miller, the mayor has the right to build a new stadium. Not with your money. That's like me saying, hey, I'd really like a new car. Can I use your credit? Can I use your credit card? It doesn't work that way. So for the people that went out and did the right thing, thank you. In the old days, you would be the rule. Today, you're the exception. Now, the mayor of the city of Boise, we really don't cover Boise that much. Because if you live in Boise, God bless you. I feel bad for you. You're overtaxed, underrepresented, and you have folks that continue to cut remedies and raise taxes. Hopefully, that will change. Hopefully, that will change, if you will, through perhaps some type of new leadership. But before we get to that, I want to go back to this story concerning the people that made a difference. Thousands of signatures were garnered. And now you have the mayor of Boise saying he's still optimistic about the library. How many people, with all due respect, and I love books. In fact, it's much to the chagrin of Mrs. Miller that I love books so much. I should read books. We should all read books so much, right? But when we're looking at the Boise Library, it is a great resource. It's wonderful. But do we really is there a need to spend more money to build a new library? Well, we're a new city. We're the fastest growing city. We've got to have a new library or a downtown stadium. So for the people that just said, I don't think so, thank you. Here's the background on the story from our friends at Channel 7 on KIDO Talk Radio.
The group Boise Working Together submitted stacks of voter signatures to the Boise City Clerk on Tuesday.
I want to stress, though, that these are not just signatures. These are real people.
More than 7,000 of them on both the sports stadium and the library. The group says their work is not about promoting or stopping the projects. It's about making sure voters have a say in them.
It's not necessarily the projects, it's the way they're done and the way the citizens are engaged. We feel that's been deficient.
When these two projects came up, they just kind of coalesced some of this feeling that we've had that city needs to be talking to the people a little bit more before they make these decisions.
We should be able to vote when we are asked to shoulder a great responsibility, which these two projects have become.
Boise Mayor David Beater sent a statement after the signatures were filed saying, quote, "We are optimistic that both projects will become reality, no matter the ultimate determination by the county clerk on the petitions," end quote.
Well, of course, we're going to see a ton of money used by the city to do what? To lobby for the stadium, to lobby for the library, probably paid spots, probably commercials on radio, the most effective means of reaching somebody. You could see that at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're going to see city funds being used for that. Of course he's optimistic. But the point being that when you're talking about getting your taxes raised, and yes, I understand that we're a republic. We're not a democracy. If we were a democracy, we would be, maybe we could be these days, considering that we have our phones and we could just vote on things like we do on Twitter. However, not to demean the process, we are a republic, which means we trust our elected officials to make the right decisions. Now, if they can't make the right decisions, then maybe we should, then we should vote on this. I think this is great.
The director of the current library agrees. He feels the city can find a way to get the library built, even with changes coming to state law. Those changes will require a public vote when more than 50% of the funding for municipal building projects comes from state or local public money, including urban renewal dollars. But both Mayor Beater and the library director don't believe that matters. The new library can still happen.
Absolutely, it'll be possible. That was only one funding mechanism, so there's several things that we can do. So our financial team as well as our project team are looking at other ways that we can finance this project. And we'll continue to do that. I'm confident that most of the public wants this building built. I'm optimistic it will be. And I know that we have strong and solid support from the community to build a new library.
That's impressive, the drawings and everything else. But I go back to a story that Dave Ramsey told me once. We were at an appearance, and Dave Ramsey was shooting the breeze about his wife, Sharon, and Sharon wanted to buy a new house. And he said, Sharon, do you know the price of a new house? And so what did he do? He said, well, I talked her into renovations, a lot cheaper than building a brand new house. Why not just renovate the old library? And as far as the downtown stadium, the people have a right to vote on that. I don't see an overwhelming need. When we have, and look, you've got the Boise Hawks, they play in Garden City. Why do you want to take away from Garden City? You have people investing in Garden City, so Boise should take that. And people say, well, we're going to fill it up for soccer. What, with 2,000 people in triple-digit heat? Anyway, bravo to the people making a difference. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up, one state seeks to make abortion a felony. And one state has had more lives lost to abortion than homicide. You'll get your thoughts and your reaction next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And good morning, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So here we have it. The Alabama House of Representatives passed a bill recently that would ban nearly all abortions in the state. They passed the bill 73-4. It will now go before the state Senate, where they will debate that issue. But if somebody performs an abortion, they will get life in prison. The bill would make it a felony for someone to perform or attempt to perform an abortion. There are exceptions in which cases the mother's health is at risk. And now people are saying it's unconstitutional. It's horrific. Now, remember, here in Idaho, we had this issue. We had a similar bill that didn't go anywhere. But you're seeing states like Georgia with the heartbeat bill. You're seeing states like Alabama saying, we're going to do something about this. Let's take a listen on KIDO Talk Radio.
The House today passed a bill that would make performing an abortion a felony unless the mother's health was in jeopardy.
Democrats walked out of the chamber, refusing to even vote on the measure, but it passed with Republican support. Alabama is one of several states to consider anti-abortion legislation in hope that legal challenges to the legislation make it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Supporters say the justices could vote to overturn Roe versus Wade. Political reporter Lydia Nussbaum has the latest from inside the Alabama legislature.
For about 2 hours, lawmakers debated the controversial abortion bill.
This bill is about, is that child, is that baby a person?
And if you are truly pro-life, let's support and put money and funding in those things that raise the quality of life.
The bill would make it a felony for someone to perform an abortion, with exceptions being in cases where the mother's health is at risk. The bill sponsor hopes this would become law and spark the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn Roe versus Wade.
We've had a lot of decisions that have been overturned by the Supreme Court, and this is the time that I believe it's time for them to revisit that issue.
The House passed the bill 74-3 Tuesday, with several Democrats announcing they staged a walkout during the vote. They said it would take away a woman's right to choose and cost the state millions in legal fees.
I think today has really it's proven that we have wasted dollars, we've wasted time.
Not only was there controversy on the House floor during the debate, but up in the gallery as well, where a woman was arrested for throwing paint on security guards and painting a glass window. And after a full day at the State House, the bill now heads to the Senate. In Montgomery, Lydia Nussbaum, WSFA 12 News.
There we have it at 580-5436-580-KIDO. So this would be one of the toughest abortion bans in the country. Now, opposite the state of Alabama, you've got the state of New York, where you have the number of abortions performed has exceeded homicides. That's right, has exceeded homicides. I'm sure Governor Cuomo is very proud of himself. Your reaction, 580-5436-580-KIDO. First, traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. Good morning, Dave. And this is where we need your prayers. You go to the state of New York, and you've got 1,485 abortions at or after 21 weeks, outnumbering homicides, people killed in New York City at 352. Good job, Governor Cuomo. Pro-Life joins us now with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pro-Life.
Yeah, we have big problems in the United States, and murdering babies by abortion is one of them. Probably it is the most.
What do you make of the Alabama legislation?
Well, it's a good bill, but it should not have health of the mother in there or life of the mother because, when you have a murder law, you don't have an exception. And it is murder. When people are defending themselves with firearms or whatever, there's no exception for whatever. The judge or jury makes that decision. And so all those cases where there's an exception for life or health or something, that would go to the court. Now, here's the real problem. We have chief executives in the United States, governors and presidents, to make decisions that the people can't make because the legislature is too wimpy or out of it or wrong. And so Terry Schiavo died because Governor Jeb Bush wouldn't make the decision to save her life, and President Bush wouldn't save her life, so some court order let her die by murder. And that's the same thing with hemp. That hemp truck, the police have to do what they do. The governor could let the truck go and should have, but he didn't even want to make the decision because he's a wimp. Now, a governor needs to decide whether abortion is murder or not and enforce that obvious natural law, but none of them have the courage to do that. And that's our big problem. Like the president down on the border, he needs to just say no more of this phony asylum stuff. And then the legislatures have to decide whether they're going to impeach those kind of people that are really defending of babies, whatever, the national interest. So that's what's going to happen in Alabama. They're just going to let it go to the courts, and they shouldn't do that.
All right, Pro-Life, thank you. Let's go to Doug in Mountain Home. Good morning, Doug, KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. Nice day. I'm out here in the foothills towards Danskin here, man. It's beautiful out. A lot more beautiful than what's going on in our legislative throughout the country, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about bravo for the Republicans in Alabama. To me, just look around what's going on with the Democrats, the MRFs. Anywhere they're at, there's chaos. Anywhere. Just like you were just hearing on the news where the Democrats going to get up and walk out of the Senate, won't vote on it. Well, look what we got going on with everything in the White House with the Democrats. Look what you got going on with Dave Beater. I just talked to a buddy of mine down in Northern California yesterday that I grew up around, and the Democrats down there, I'm sure, I don't know, maybe you guys heard, maybe you haven't, the legislative like Pelosi and all them, but I guess it'd be state. They voted in a 70-cent a gallon tax on the people down there, above already the federal tax. They voted it in so they can tax them, and gas and diesel down there is, I don't know, way above $5 a gallon, way above 4 and 5. I even heard in Death Valley, which I don't know who goes to Death Valley, Kevin, but